It's the same
every
one
time.
every time.
It is, and that's the funny thing. Like every time I'm like, oh, I'm gonna mix it up and do something different, and I'll do it like 6 times in a different way. I'm like, no, just do it the same way. Just
He's preparing for that next live show we do. He's gonna have it down so good.
I did
Right.
okay on the live show.
I didn't say you did bad.
No, I know. I was just saying I did okay. I thought I was gonna screw that up because every time when I'm doing it by myself, it takes me like 7 times. Anyway, I'm ready to record if you guys are ready to record.
Oh shit! Hang on, let me pull up Audacity.
That's a no.
If you can not tell at this point, we are very professional podcasters.
That's okay. We pretty much do the same thing, especially when we ever have a guest on. We're just kind of chit-chatting for the first hour, and then we realize, oh, we still have to record like a 2.5-hour show.
Well, the good thing is ours is only like an hour at max. So like we usually say, oh yeah, let's start at 9 or 8 o'clock. And then like it doesn't happen until 9:30ish for various reasons. And then like we actually start recording late, and it's a fun time.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready if everyone else is ready.
I'm gonna close out of this window and come back in. I don't know why my screen is like blank on this Google Hangout, so I'll be right back.
So
Oh,
that's
okay.
a no.
What did I say? We start at 9:30.
Yeah.
Oh, other thing that I didn't add in here. There's been a video going around about test footage of the Guardians of the Galaxy coaster, and now I can't find it. But yeah, that's floating around somewhere.
There was some in that article, the one that you put on there.
Oh.
Yeah, it was from, I guess, I don't know which IAPA 2018. There was like a little bit of the test footage of the back cart moving around.
Perfect. This is actually the one that I was looking at, but it didn't have the screen in there for some reason. But that's still cool. I wasn't that thrilled about this until I watched that.
Yeah, I mean, we're really not that thrilled about anything new that they've been doing in Epcot, especially, since everything that's nostalgic has been removed pretty much with the exception of Spaceship Earth. And that's, a whole thing that's coming up now. So,
I mean, I shouldn't say I'm not excited about this, but it was not on my top of my radar.
Right.
Like, I love Guardians of the Galaxy, but I just feel like it's so forced. Like, it's not the right place.
Beth, you're forgetting Star-Lord went there. That's why.
Oh my god.
A weak tie-in.
Lame. Here's a picture of him in front of Spaceship Earth.
That was supposed to sell the audience on it.
Right.
That one picture, they're like, come on. 1982, right?
We put a filter on it so it looks old.
I'll be impressed if there's some like acknowledging the rides from then. Like if they, do a scene in there and Star-Lord is like talking through the attraction and he mentions an attraction that's not there anymore. I'll be impressed about it then.
I'm
That's
so lost because I've never
I
seen
agree.
any of those movies.
It's
Oh my
okay.
god, Kirsten.
I've told
Brian,
you.
you're still in that crowd too, aren't you?
No, I've seen
Ugh.
both Guardians, but I haven't seen hardly any other Marvel movies outside of that.
I think
I've seen
Guardians
Guardians and Deadpool.
I think
I mean,
Guardians
that's
is
not
the
in
one
the
to watch,
MCU
though.
though.
Yeah.
But Deadpool is really good anyway.
I accidentally saw Guardians because I was a huge Trauma fan growing up. I still kind of am. And I knew that James Gunn was directing it. I had no clue that had anything to do with Disney or Marvel. I was completely out of the loop at the time. I just went to the movie theater. I'm like, oh, yeah, this new James Gunn movie's out. Let's go see it. And it sucked me in. And I was just like, yes, this is great. I'm not a superhero guy. I'm not a Marvel guy. So it's, I was surprised.
I wasn't either, and I had no intentions on watching it. And some guy at my work kept saying, "Dude, you gotta watch it. You gotta watch it." I'm like, "Okay, I'll get around to it." No, dude, you gotta watch it. And he finally came in one day and like handed me a DVD and was like, "Dude, go home and watch this." And I was like, "Jesus!" And I went home and watched it. And I was like, "Okay, he was right. It was really good."
Oh. Anyway, are you all set up now?
I'm good.
That was an interesting sound.
I have a bell too.
I hit my fork.
Nice.
So we can
I-
consider that the official start.
Is that like a tuning fork? You got to get your voice in tune.
I was eating tacos.
No, she's making a
hold on,
toast.
hold on. Let's back that up. She was eating tacos with a fork.
Oh my
Oh
God.
yeah, back up. Thank you for not letting that slide.
I don't use tortilla. I just put it in a bowl.
That's not a taco.
It's a taco salad.
But I don't eat lettuce.
Whoa.
Okay,
wait,
so
is it
what's
just
in
the
the
ground
bowl?
beef and cheese?
It's ground turkey, cheese.
Oh, you're
This
one
is
of them.
definitely not a taco.
I don't eat
Yeah.
cheese. Ground turkey, cheese, tomatoes, and lime juice.
Okay, that is not a taco.
That's not a
That
taco.
is. I don't even know if that's Mexican food.
That sounds like Chef Boyardee. I
You
mean, I'm
have
not-
fried lime juice on your tacos. You're missing out. It's amazing.
No, the
I
lime
would
juice
try
on the
it if it was
tacos
a
is
taco.
It's just like taco salad minus the lettuce, or a taco minus the tortilla.
good. It's a good thing that
so
I
it's ground
started.
beef.
A bowl
got-
of turkey.
It's a
Yeah.
good thing that I started broadcasting this call because I'm gonna cut this later.
Oh man.
So is this going to be a blooper?
Yes, it is.
Y'all judging my food choices?
What Kirsten thinks is a taco.
Well,
That
we
should be
made-
the title.
We made fun of Kirsten for thinking that like a whole bunch of other people are quadruplets.
Oh my God, that was insane.
I
can't
wasn't
help it.
there. I was not there for that one, and
Will says it's because I'm not white, because I'm Native American or whatever, and I'm registered. I have my card. You know, I vote for the chief, all that stuff. And he's like, it's because you're not white. It's just like all black. Like I remember, like in high school, all of my friends who were black thought me and my friend looked the same, and we don't look anything alike.
you know,
And they're
For-
like, I can't tell white people apart. And so Will says, why?
for all of those times that Kirsten was like, while I'm not here, you should have Will on the show, we probably should have, because I feel like we would have gotten along with him very well.
Oh, I know.
Probably.
Anyway, I'm ready to record when you guys are now that it's like 9:15.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm recording.
Me too.
Me too.
So am I.
Oh, awesome. You're listening to episode number 61 of the Station 71 podcast. My name is Mario, and this week I'm joined by my co-hosts
Beth?
Brian.
Kirsten.
and our special guest co-host, Jerry. So,
Hi.
this week, obviously, we're joined by Jerry from Mouse Rants. Thanks for joining us, Jerry.
Thank you for having me.
It's very exciting to have you. I'm super excited to talk about the topic this week. We're going to be going over some of the Disney IPs that made it from the parks to the screens. But first, as always, let's dive into some of our news topics this week. So first up, in a very upsetting news story, Stan Lee, Marvel's creator founder, has passed away at the age of 95. This is
Man.
very, very upsetting news.
Extremely upsetting. My boyfriend literally called me at work and broke the news to me, and we were both just like sitting on the phone, all depressed, like, man, this sucks. What a
Yeah.
legend.
Yeah, and even being someone that hasn't been a huge like Marvel comics fan or Marvel movie fan, just like the impact that he's had on pop culture just is like it's incredible. Even from somebody that's not a huge fan of all that stuff, like it reaches so far. Like everybody knows some of the Marvel characters, whether or not you read any of the comics or saw any of the movies. They're so instantly recognizable.
Mm-hmm.
This is like insane too, because like you said, he's just connected with so many different people, and he's definitely one of like the top creators of our lifetime, at least.
Yeah,
it's-
sorry, I was just gonna
It's
say
okay.
my boyfriend had an interesting comment that I thought I'd bring up, is that he was like, well, I'm glad that he at least got to see Marvel in its current state where it's like thriving, versus like if he had passed away when he was having to like sell everything for pennies,
That's
that would
very
have been
true.
really bad.
Yeah, that's very true. So let's jump into the next thing that we got on here. We have another Skyliner update because we've been following this one very closely. The Skyliner is set to open in fall of 2019, and we also got some, I guess, displays of the actual Skyliner itself at the IAAPA conference. You can actually see a photo of the Skyliner gondola. It's very interesting. I still don't know how I feel about this. Do you guys have anything you want to share about that?
I'm still concerned about the air conditioning situation.
Oh, so am I.
Yeah, that and just the speed at which they travel. There's a lot of question marks still up in the air.
Yeah, I'm kind of happy this isn't going to be ready when I'm there the next time, because part of me would be like, I have to go do this. I have to try this. This is a new thing, and I want to see how it fares, first before I actually, commit myself to this.
Yeah, like I don't want to be there opening weekend when they start running these things and trying to jump on them.
The gondola itself looks cool, but it looks also terrifying when I think about the fact that it's going to be hanging from a wire.
Right.
Yeah, you just kind of reminded me that I have a fear of heights, and I'm probably not going to do too well with these.
That's the worst part. Like, I have a fear of heights too, but it's more like freestanding heights, so this is not appealing to me at all. But the Disney fan in me is like, you got to do this. We got to try this.
With my luck, I'm going to go, and it's going to be like a really windy day, and it's going to be like swaying back and forth the whole time.
Oh, or it'll break down. That'll be it for me.
Oh yeah, that's it. I might not go back to Disney if that happens.
It's still a terrible eyesore. I mean, I don't know. I'm glad that I don't stay at Pop Century or Art of Animation or Caribbean Beach, so I'm not worried about that, honestly. But it's just gonna look bad driving down to Epcot,
I'm interested to see if they even try to hide some of this stuff. Like, I know we've talked about it personally on the show, how horrible it looks at some of the Caribbean beach rooms, because the support beams are literally right next to some of the rooms. So it's going to be interesting to see if they try to cover it up with any kind of like foliage or just disguising the supports. Like, there's got to be something they can do here.
It also looks like anybody in this picture could get hit by a Skyliner. Like, it's pretty low to the ground and there's no fence. It's very odd.
That is very true. I did not think of that. So next up, we also have some details on the Guardians of the Galaxy ride that we've also been kind of talking about here and there. We talked about the patent for the cart. We were correct. This is going to be going to the Guardians of the Galaxy attraction with the spinning roller coaster cart. And we also got some footage of the actual coaster itself on the track. The one takeaway that I have from this, and I don't know if you guys have watched it yet, in the footage, the coaster itself moves with the cart itself moves pretty fast with the coaster. I'm interested to see how they make this with like show scenes and stuff, because the way that it spins, I think that might make me a little bit nauseous.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too, because I'm kind of prone to motion sickness, as you guys know. Anybody who hasn't heard my fun little story, go check out that little bonus clip. But yeah, I'm kind of nervous about this. Obviously, I'm going to have to do it, but just spinning around and going like one direction, I feel like my equilibrium is going to be like, what's going on?
Well, it just moves past what, like when it turns, it looks like it just spins. Like it doesn't even stop for a second to focus on anything that would be in that direction. Now, this is all outdoor test footage, so it could just be them showing how the cart moves. But I just watching that one split second where it like almost turns all the way around, I was kind of afraid.
It does have a very Primeval Whirl feel to it. Where it turns you. And I can't, that's like one of the very few rides I just can't do.
Hold on. Before we continue this podcast, we need to settle a debate that decides on if Jerry's actually going to stay on the show or not. How do you feel about Chester and Hester's?
Well, it's terrible. So
Thank you. All right, you can stay, guys.
Wait, does somebody on this show enjoy Chester and Hester?
Yes. I don't enjoy the rides. I like the backstory.
I love Primeval Whirl.
That is the
Oh,
weakest
I-
explanation for keeping it around ever. I enjoy the backstory.
I feel like I'm going to die on Primeval Whirl, which is definitely a thrill, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's the whole point of it.
I don't know if I would say that I like it.
It says something that Kirsten and I both hate it, and Kirsten is the one that goes to Disney for thrill rides.
Yeah.
I love a good thrill ride. I don't like something that just slams you into the wall and then spins you around. It's that's more like torture to me. So no, I'm good without that personally.
Also, this is something you can ride at your state fair. So,
Right.
Yeah.
but I love the
Not quite as
backstory of
safe at
Chester and
the state
Hester's.
fair.
What was that, Kirsten?
Said not quite as safe at the state fair.
True. Even scarier.
Although
Oh,
2 people
fear
died
either.
on Primeval World, right? So
Yeah, but they died like somebody, like it was cast members that like the
Oh.
vehicle came by and like
Okay,
hit
no
them in the
big deal.
head. It wasn't
Neither
the
of those
actual
are a
ride.
good thing.
there's
Uh,
plenty of them. They're disposable.
Oh my god.
oh, that's a good segue that I'm going to jump around in the news really quick.
Yep.
Speaking of disposable cast members,
Huh.
there was some news that broke today that select meet and greets will now have automated cameras installed instead of PhotoPass photographers. This was one that I got tagged in a lot today, but apparently Disney has decided that some of the character meet and greet locations would fare better without a PhotoPass photographer on site. So they installed these little boxes that are very far away and don't get you very good pictures of your character meet and greets.
It's so
It's
stupid.
so- It's bull. Like I'm livid. It's just like pinching pennies. Like thanks, Bob Iger. This is terrible.
Mm.
It's awful. And also, you know how the PhotoPass people are amazing and like they'll take pictures with your camera. You can't
Yep.
hand your own camera to a box.
I
Mhm.
think that's probably the reason that they did this. And I have Memory Maker on my next trip. It's not something that I usually do, but because we were going to go with my girlfriend's parents, she wanted to put it on there. And then when they decided they didn't want to go, we just decided to keep it. I told her today I was very close to canceling it, but when we made all of the changes to our reservation, they told us the one thing that didn't allow us to change it online was the PhotoPass. And I don't want to go through having to cancel my reservation and pay for these stupid ticket prices.
Mm.
If you can't tell, I'm very angry.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I don't agree with this decision from Disney, but I am gonna play devil's advocate for just a sec here. I know this is not why they're doing it. It is most definitely a cost-cutting measure. But I will say that one thing that always kind of kills the immersion the few times that I do go to character meet and greets is that you're going into whatever area that these, the characters are supposed to be in from the story, and it's you, the character, and then a cameraman sitting there kind of kills that immersion a little bit. Now, again, I know that's not why they're doing this, but at least the one positive from this is maybe it will feel a little bit more immersive without the camera person standing there taking pictures.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
just get your photo. Everything's gonna be blurry. It's not gonna really help the situation.
They've already rolled these out, and if you look hard enough, you can find the pictures that the PhotoPass box takes, and it's in a very odd place because I saw one with Tinkerbell. I think that's the first one that's done it, and it's far enough back that the character and the person that's with them, which is a smaller child, are kneeling down, and like Tinkerbell's at the child's height. But it looks like if Tinkerbell was standing up, you wouldn't be able to see Tinkerbell. So I'm wondering if like the camera adjusts itself based on where they are, but still the fact that I can see like a bunch of floor and then Tinkerbell, it's the composition of these photos is very off. And I didn't want to say that, but
Yeah, but it's just like, how are you going to know when, like, obviously the flash is going to go off, but you're not going to be able to, like, is it going to say, like a photo booth, like 3, 2, 1, everybody?
Terrible. I think that kills the immersion more.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like, there's not going to be cast members there to, like, give any direction of, like when I went to meet the Talking Mickey at Town Square Theater, I, like, went to take a picture and I kind of, like, leaned down because I'm 5'10" and the Mickey was like way shorter than me, and the cast member was like, "Oh no, you can stand up straight. Like Mickey hangs out with Goofy all the time." I was like, "Oh, okay," and I stood up straight, and I'm so glad that they made me because it was like one of my favorite pictures that I've taken at the parks, and I feel like if I had been like leaning over like the way that I was hunched over, it would have looked really bad.
And also, like, who's gonna, because I feel like character attendants are more there to have people go up to the person, and then once whoever's there is done, send the next person. But now character attendants are going to have to be enforcing, like, hey, you have to go, it's time to go, you've taken enough pictures, or like whatever, and that's just giving them more to do that they're not really used to doing. I think it's like kind of a lot to put on them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna
That's
have to
very true.
who works
That's
as
a
a
good
character
point.
attendant, like what she's heard or like what she thinks.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's also very true.
Because there's going to be somebody there trying to take 30 pictures. Like, go, you're done.
Yeah. I wonder if they're going to have like the cast members that let you in actually go in and escort people out. But at the same time, that also adds a lot more time to the character experience and the stress on the cast members there, because they've got to attend to like how many different rooms, not to ruin that for you, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It should just be a moving conveyor belt. You get on it, you take pictures with the character, and by the time you get to the end, you either got to get off or just fall over.
Please don't give them any ideas.
Please do not sit on the moving handrail.
Or please, people will stand still on the moving walkway and it'll just be terrible.
Oof.
Man.
So we want to move on to this last news story. Or do you
Yeah.
have any thoughts on the character photographer stuff that we want to get out?
Nah, I'm
Okay.
just mad.
So the last news piece that we have this week is that Walt Disney World is releasing, or has released, some flyover video of the 15-story tower at Coronado Springs. We touched on this a little bit already, but should be open to Grand Destino Tower will be open July 2019, and you should start seeing reservations pop up soon-ish. Doesn't give us an exact date.
Man, how long has Coronado Springs been under construction? It feels like forever.
At least 2 years.
Yeah. Well, this article says since 2017, but who knows what they consider.
2019.
That's very
That's
true.
true.
It feels like a lot for just a tower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
that sums up like my exact feelings on this. As someone that used to stay at Coronado a lot, the last couple of years I haven't been too thrilled, and maybe that's just because we started staying at Riverside more, and I've talked enough about that. But I don't know. I don't know if I will see myself going back to Coronado in the near future.
I
So-
actually enjoyed it whenever I stayed there.
I like it. Don't get me wrong. I don't know. I think it's good. I've heard that you can get good group rates there because that is the like
Mm-hmm.
convention resort. But I've never needed that. So I guess maybe that's my distance from this now.
Yeah, I've never been to Coronado. Was this put on, like, was this something was torn down and this was put in its place, or is this like a whole new thing that's like an extra to the resort now?
If I remember, it was just an extra that was added on. I don't think they tore anything down.
Hmm.
But it's definitely been going on for a while, and it's felt very weird. I do have to say that I do still like the I'm like the one person that likes the Maya Grill, so I'll go back for that. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It looks kind of generic to me, the building.
Yeah, that's very true.
So, but I
So-
mean, it looks nice, but just generic.
yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about it. So are we ready to move into the topic this week?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So, as previously mentioned, we're going to be discussing some of the Disney Park IPs that have turned into movies. A few of us decided to sit down and watch these. I am guilty of not watching these in any recent times. So this is going to be interesting. But yeah, so before we dive into this, let's take a moment. I'll turn this over to Jerry because I know Beth had specifically asked you to come on here for a couple of reasons. So do you want to give us your background on like movie stuff?
I don't know why she invited me on here.
Oh, okay, well then.
No, I went to film school. I've been a movie buff since I was, I don't know, 2. My mom took me to the movies. I was one of the kids who didn't cry in the theater, which is a good thing. So I used to go to the movies all the time and kind of obsess over that. So I don't know. I've made my life kind of analyzing and discussing films. But you know, haven't done it. I am a film editor, but that's that's not about watching them. That's about working on them. So it's a whole nother story.
So you're a big movie fan,
Really?
to sum that all up, and I'm assuming that you've seen a good chunk of these. Is that correct?
I have seen every single one as of today when I was forced to watch The Country Bears.
I'm so sorry. Oh,
You know, it was the one movie I hadn't seen like at all, and I was like, I'm gonna have to one day. I'm gonna have to watch this movie, and today was that day. So,
Well, hopefully it's for a good cause, and
yeah.
Yeah. I have lots of thoughts about it later.
so since Beth and Brian took the time to actually go over and watch these two, I'll turn it off to you guys, and you guys can have the show this week.
Well, I saw the Tower of Terror movie previously, but it's been a few years. I know, Brian, you watched it today, right?
Yeah, I started it last night. Kind of fell asleep and finished watching it today. It was okay. I feel like this is pretty much par for the course for like late 90s Disney direct to TV movies. So take that how you may. It's okay, but pretty forgettable in my opinion.
I liked it. I thought it was like, especially for a made-for-TV movie, I thought it was cute. Like, I think it was like a nice, wholesome plot, I guess. And it's just funny. It's like, you know, it's got these kind of big names in it, but I don't know if they were necessarily big names back then.
Right.
I guess-
mean, that was before.
No, go for it.
Oh, Kirsten Dunst, right? Like that was the first thing I can ever remember her being in.
Well, when was Jumanji?
Oh, geez, she was in Jumanji, wasn't
Wasn't
she?
that like the same year?
What about Interview with a Vampire? Come on,
Oh,
Wow.
okay.
she was like
Yeah.
kid in that.
So she was in a bunch of stuff before that. We just forgot about them.
So why was she in this movie?
This
Oh,
did star the king of blandness, Steve Guttenberg. You had that going for it.
Oh man.
I mean,
just looked up when Jumanji came out just so I can contribute something to this. Kirsten was right; it did come out in the same year. But I also Googled Jumanji, and the first thing that came up was the new Jumanji, and I'm a little disappointed in that. So I'm not going to go on that tangent there.
I was pleasantly surprised by the new Jumanji. I thought it was pretty funny.
I was pleasantly surprised with it too, but
But it wasn't even the same movie.
I think that's good. I think it's better than trying to redo it exactly.
that's
Yeah.
anyway, Disney movies.
I look. If you want to hear my full thoughts on it, I did an episode on my show, Mouse Rants. We watched the entire thing and did commentary on it. It was brutal to get through, honestly. I mean, the good thing is it really did relate back to the story in Tower of Terror, the small story they do have. So I did like that. But some of the strange over the top acting I did not understand. Like Melora Hardin is a great actor, and I don't know what she was doing in that. But
Yeah, I was very surprised to see her too. I was kind of watching this and I was like, where do I know her from? Where do I know her from? Where do I know her from? And I was like, oh my gosh, it's Jan from The Office. So,
That's so funny. this is the reason I know her. She's in 17 again, right?
Yeah.
With Zac Efron.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different than recognizing her from The Office, but but I liked this movie. I think because I don't know, I'm an emotional person. I'm a big sucker, and the plot twist in this is like real, like tugs at your heartstrings kind of thing. So for anybody listening, this whole show is probably going to be like spoilers, but these movies have all come out like 10 years ago, so you should have watched them by now probably. But yeah, the plot twist is basically like there's these two sisters, and one is like a movie star. The other sister that's not a movie star like puts a spell or casts like a curse on her, so she's like stuck in the hotel. And then because she didn't like remember it was her birthday or something, right?
Yeah, but then the
Sounds
problem
like you're
is
trying to remember a dream that you had.
the problem is
Probably.
the very ending didn't make any sense whatsoever, because it's like one of them was young and the other one was old, but they're the same age, so it doesn't make any sense. And there was a whole thing, and then are they going to heaven? I don't know. It was a weirdly thrown together ending.
No, they're going to the Tip Top Club or whatever, right?
Yeah, but at the very end, after that, she sings a song and everybody disappears except for one. I don't know. It was very strange. Like, I don't understand how that ended, honestly. But look, it was a harmless movie. It was harmless.
Yeah.
The thing that killed me about this was like the whole last 15 minutes of the film. It was just like this whole elephant in the room. Like, hey, I bet they're going to get him in that elevator and it's going to end up falling. So how are they going to do it?
So for our listeners that don't know what these are about, why don't we give a quick summary of the plot? I know we kind of touched on that a little bit with the general discussion with this, but like, just quick breeze through the summary of this movie.
So I would say it starts out exactly the opening plot of Tower of Terror. You have the group of people in the Hollywood Tower Hotel that go in there, get struck by lightning, they go to the Twilight Zone. Cuts to the main character, who is a what do you call it? Like tabloid photographer. He ends up hearing a story from a woman who comes to his house to tell him to check out this haunted Hollywood Tower Hotel. He does with his niece, and ends up unraveling this mystery there. Turns out the lady who came to him was one of the girl that was
the not movie star sister.
Right, the not movie star sister that got, her sister was one of the people that got taken to the Twilight Zone, and she was actually a witch casting spells this whole time. But then, you have the typical Disney ending where everyone makes up and it all comes out rainbows and butterflies.
Exactly.
It sounds a lot worse when, like, with the description you just gave. It's like, man, this movie does sound pretty dumb.
Yeah,
well, it is.
That's saying something if you're, because Kirsten's our Tower of Terror.
Serious.
Oh, hey, y'all just wait till we get to Country Bears.
I think this is funny that this is one of the only movies that you can find in the Disney parks at their attraction. I mean, aside from Pirates of the Caribbean, that says something about it too. And also
it's the only one they're not embarrassed of, I guess.
Yes.
That's what it is.
And the cover actually has like the Tower of Terror attraction in the background.
It doesn't say Twilight Zone though, right? Like in the title screen, or am I wrong?
I don't think so. I don't think there was a single Twilight Zone reference in here, because I don't think they had the rights to use that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Oh, wow. I
That's
did
very
not
good.
notice that.
I wouldn't want that to be in the canon of Twilight Zone, honestly. I mean,
That's true.
Yeah.
It's actually I just Googled it real quick because I wanted to see what the poster said. In the Wikipedia, which take that for what it is, it says the film, which has no connections to any incarnation of the Twilight Zone.
They want to put that down in writing.
Yeah.
And it says it was
do
also
not want to be associated with this.
Yeah. Ooh, I guess I'm gonna have to go back and watch that one now. So what was the next one that you guys had on your list?
Well, the next one is Mission to Mars, which came out in 2000.
Okay, I have to talk about this. This is based on the Mission to Mars ride.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even realize that. I have a terrible, terrible phobia of space, and it's because of this movie. Like,
really?
yeah, I had no idea until I was reading these notes that it was based on something Disney. Like my dad, he would always let me watch whatever he was watching, even though I'm the biggest chicken in the world and he really shouldn't have. And I remember this was like on TV once, and he let me stay in the room and watch it. And this is the reason that I'm terrified of space. Like I hate space movies. The idea of going to space like makes me like hyperventilate. I can't like Gravity. I was like sobbing in the movie theater because I ended up going to see that because I love Sandy B. Like this is why I have a space phobia, is this movie. And now I'm very sad to realize that it's based on Disney. And that's all I have to say.
Man, this
It was
wrecked your
terrifying. It
little
was so scary. Don't watch it, anybody.
wrecked your little like 11-year-old mind.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, it wasn't a great movie, but I didn't think it was that bad. I guess. Okay, look, we're spoiling things, right? Is that
Yeah.
what you're saying?
Yeah, that's fine. Give
Like-
a plot summary of this so we know where we're going with this. Anyone?
Okay, so it's about there's a group of friends, and for some reason they're all astronauts, and so are their like each person's spouse is also an astronaut, which that doesn't make sense.
I
But
just
okay.
noticed that in the because I have the IMDb pulled up for all of these. Some of the actresses that are in here are actually listed as NASA wife.
NASA wife. Yeah, I don't get why it just did that part didn't make sense to me. But anyway, they go on this mission to Mars, literally, and it gets really messed up. Everybody dies pretty much except for Don Cheadle, and then they have to go on this rescue mission. And so Gary Sinise and the boys all go up and try to save him, and everybody dies pretty much.
Dang.
Like the rock that's on Mars that looks like a face, it like comes to life, not to life, but it's like this terrible stuff starts coming out of it. I don't even know. And I vividly remember like a rock flies and hits an astronaut like in their face. And so obviously it like smashes their mask thingy and they are dead. And I remember that. And then I remember there's two people, a husband and wife astronaut in space. And for some reason, to save the lady, the dude has to open up his helmet and like die in the middle of space. And like you see his face freeze. Like these are the things I remember about this movie.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I have seen this movie and I didn't realize it until you said that.
Scary. Oh.
I don't remember anything because it's probably been 15 years since I've seen it. But
I love that
I
everyone has
remember that
repressed
scene.
this movie. I also just added a photo to the show notes that literally proves the point that there are people listed as NASA wife.
oh
God.
man, that's great.
Let me just delete that real quick so you guys can see your notes.
Yeah, I mean, basically, yes. The guy, it was played by Tim Robbins. His name was Woody, actually, in the movie. He was floating too close to the atmosphere of Mars, and there was no way they'd be able to reach him. But his wife was gonna try anyway, which would kill her too. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Is it all coming back to you, Kirsten?
yep.
Oh, I don't even want to think about this. Like, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. I'm going to have
Oh
nightmares
no.
about space.
Okay, well, the weird thing is they actually tied in at the end, or I guess in the middle, a random alien subplot that was very reminiscent of 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I think that kind of is interesting since it was replaced with Alien Encounter.
Huh.
That is interesting.
There's an interesting little connection there.
Yeah.
So I unfortunately did not have time to watch this movie before we recorded this because I was too busy watching Country Bears and making rage notes in my phone. But I just want to, I pulled up the Wikipedia and I just want to point out that it says that this movie is set in 2020.
No.
So,
Get ready, people.
basically, Yeah.
Why did they never set the movies far enough in the future? Never.
Well, they just had high hopes for our society that got crushed. They're like, oh, yeah, we'll totally be doing awesome stuff by that time. Not.
I was gonna ask if anybody does remember like the ending of this movie, because I'm pretty sure that he dies at the end of the movie, even though like it doesn't really show you. It shows his life flashing before his eyes as he gets drowned, and then the spaceship goes flying off to an alien planet, but it never shows him alive. So I don't know. People.
I Googled how does the movie Mission to Mars end, and I just want to point out that there is a YouTube video that says Mission to Mars the end. It's about 5 minutes long, and it has this thumbnail that I'm not entirely sure what it is, but the one next to it says Mission to Mars best scene, and it has the same thumbnail. So does that mean the ending of Mission to Mars is the best part of this movie?
I guess.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so I have no idea.
I just started playing the minute long one in the background, and I'm very uncomfortable at his face.
Gary Sinise?
Yeah, it's like bloaty and like emotionless. Like, yep, here I am. I'm dying.
So he's probably dead. Oh yeah, that's something we didn't bring up is that Gary Sinise basically plays his character in Mission Space. Like it's the same character.
Maybe
Right.
that's why he didn't come back for the new iteration. Instead.
Okay, is Gary Sinise like an honorary astronaut at this point? Or why is every movie he's in about space?
Love space.
I feel like he's done enough of the training to prepare for these movies. Like he's got to be at least half an astronaut, right?
Well, he was half a man in Forrest Gump. That was a bad joke.
So,
Are we ready to move on to the
I don't know.
travesty?
Do we want to move on? Do we just want to skip
man.
it?
I say
So
we
Mission
have
to Mars, guys.
I say we have to because
Well, obviously we have to. I had oh my god, literally paused this movie no less than 20 times as I was watching it. And at the end of it, I said to my boyfriend, who I made watch with me, what he said to me was, "This is the meanest thing you've ever done to me." What I said was, "Well, that's $3 in an hour and a half of my life I'm never getting back."
You found it for $3. I had to pay $4 for this.
Oh my.
Oh.
You know, Amazon
You guys
Prime
paid for it?
Video.
I was
had it
gonna say,
for
guys, the internet.
$2.99.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't pay for this. Crazy.
I tried to find a bootleg. I did. I really did. But I was just like, I don't have time
Don't
for
admit
this.
that.
Okay, I didn't try to find a bootleg. Everybody do it the legal way.
She meant to say she already had the VHS at home. Come on.
Yeah, I just didn't have my VCR.
I'll say I had no idea this movie existed, and I was
Really?
telling my husband today about our topic, and he was like, "There's a Tower of Terror movie," and I was like, "Yeah, duh." And he's like, "Well, I remember the Country Bears one. I used to watch that when I was little. It's okay."
Okay,
It's
hold on.
okay.
I have to stop
Oh,
this.
okay.
We haven't even gone over the plot summary yet, but I'm sitting on IMDb because I haven't watched any of these movies recently. And the Country Bears Jamboree, which has a 4 out of 10 star on IMDb, was
Did
also
not earn
apparently
that.
apparently it was also nominated for 4 awards, which it says Seymour Awards, and I clicked on it, and it says the Stinkers Bad Movie Awards.
Oh.
I was about to say Christopher Walken was nominated for a Razzie.
He was also
Okay.
But worst supporting actor. He was also
well-deserved.
nominated for the worst supporting actor at the Stinkers, worst on-screen group for the Country Bears, and most distracting celebrity cameo appearance was Elton John.
Oh my god, it was so
Oh
bad.
my god.
Uh,
Okay, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's go over the basic plot of this. if
Oh,
you
it
can call
was-
it a film.
it was
Yeah, did
the
you ever see Almost
2000.
Famous? Same movie.
I was gonna say it's the 2011 Muppets movie. It
Oh
is the
God, no! Don't
same-
compare it to that.
I know it. I felt so bad watching it, making the comparison, but I was like, this is the same movie, but it's horrible.
Done really, really poorly.
Oh.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. Christopher Walken was the best part of this movie. He did the most random things for no reason whatsoever. And I'm like, well, at least I'm getting a good laugh out of it.
His plot twist at the end
Oh,
was the
okay.
thing that like set me over the top. I was
I
like,
can't. That was
Hold
one
on.
of the 20 times I paused
hold on. Start with the plot summary because we've
Okay.
reviewed this
Oh
like
my God.
6
Plot
times.
summary. Here it is. Basically, is what happens. This family has a regular human son and a bear son, and the whole movie starts with him being like, "Am I adopted?" And they're like, "No. Why would you think that?" And I was like, maybe because he's a freaking bear. I don't know, but
No one in this movie understands that everybody else is a bear. Like, how do they not
Just like-
see that?
right. And it's just like, okay, so he's like, got this family with a bear son and a regular son. And the regular son is like a huge douchebag, like major.
Just no
rude.
reason either.
Literally,
No.
it has no context as to why he hates him so much. But basically, his brother's really mean to him and tells him he doesn't belong. So he runs away, and he loves the Country Bears, which was a band that was like apparently super famous and broke up. He loves the band, and he's like, well, I'm gonna go to Country Bear Hall because that's where I belong. So he goes to Country Bear Hall and finds out that it's getting torn down because he's 6 years behind in rent and owes the bank like $20,000. So he's like, let's get the band back together and we'll have a benefit show. And then hilarity ensues.
This sounds stupid.
It
This-
is.
After that comparison, it literally sounds like the Muppet movie.
It really is, but it's so poorly done. So I want, like, the thing that kills me is that they use a lot of the characters from Country Bear Jamboree. None of them look or sound anything like the characters.
I guess the closest is Big Al, but even he doesn't act anything like Big Al.
Right, and he has such a minor role in this, like, compared to the other Country Bears in it.
Like
Mhm.
Zuber and Fred Betterhead. What kind of names are these? I'm
Fred
sorry.
and Ted Betterhead.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Hold on. I know I have nothing to say about these movies, but I want to point out some stuff on the IMDb because that's all I'm doing this episode. First of all, the quote that is selected for this movie that out of context, I'm very confused about. And I had to like rethink about this entire movie, and it's been years since I've seen it. But the quote is, "Do you like the sound of crunching wood? I do."
Well,
That's probably when Christopher Walken's character, who wants to tear down Country Hall, has literally like
Oh.
50 wooden models of Country Bear Hall, and he just keeps dropping this giant anvil on it, like each one over and over, and does it literally like 10 times in a row. I'm like, how many of these models did you build just to break them?
And I
also
love-
he's wearing bunny slippers. Okay.
And his boxers. Yeah, he's just walking around in his boxers and bunny slippers.
Before
And
you
I
said
love
that,
he has the custom hood ornament of the crane on his car, just to drive the point home.
before you said all of that, I was actually convinced that Christopher Walken played Kirsten in this movie.
Oh.
Actually, that would be very fun to have a model of Country Bears and smash it.
But there's also a section over here that says goofs, and I'm sure you guys have some of these, or at least Beth, since she stopped the movie 30 times. But it says, after Barry and Henry get into the bus to go get the band, there's a shot of Barry hanging out the window of the side of the bus, and the bus is clean, but this is before the bus goes through the car wash. The next
Yes.
outside shot, the bus is dirty.
They reused that scene. Like, they
Wait,
did it
is
at the
the- is
beginning
there-
and the end.
Is the bear named Barry?
Yes.
His name is
Yeah.
Barry, Barry Barrington.
Come
I
on.
feel like somebody's kid made up this whole movie.
Yes!
Someone's kid directed this whole movie.
This is the Country Bears fan fiction that Brian wrote when he was like,
Oh.
God. No, this was like one of the people who worked on the film. This was their kid's like 3rd grade short story that they wrote. It's like, this is the dark age of the Disney films. Let's just make this into a movie.
oh my gosh.
So
Now that
I-
we've roasted this one.
I'm
Oh,
not
man.
done.
Oh my gosh. Can we touch on some of the cameos in here too? Like, I think
Oh my
that
gosh.
dates this movie. So we've got Queen Latifah.
Which, by the way, I just want to stop you. So the whole thing with Queen Latifah is she's a bartender. I guess she owns the bar. And Zeb Zuber, one of the Country Bears, is like living there, like sleeping on her floor, and owes her like $500. And she complains about those things, and then also complains about the fact that he calls her Cha Cha. but never establishes what her character's name actually is.
Nope, she's supposed to play herself. That's what it says in the credits.
Really?
Yeah, I watched the end, and it said Queen Latifah as herself.
Oh, how? Okay, how did?
in IMDb,
At what point was that established that this is the Queen Latifah, like actually Queen Latifah? Like Queen Latifah's not a bartender? What?
Because in IMDb, it credits her as Cha-Cha.
So even IMDb is calling her Cha-Cha. She's not having a good time.
Right?
So, Queen Latifah, Crystal Harris, who was the first impromptu music number that they did. Apparently, she was a
one-hit wonder.
Okay, because I was watching this the whole time, and I'm thinking, okay, I guess she's famous. I've never heard of her before, but it was very clear that they were using her in like a cameo role. So
yeah, she was a one-hit wonder. She had like a pop song on the radio, but that's it. Like one song.
Okay, and then Elton John. Okay,
I mad at Elton John for sinking this low.
Look,
How much money did they have to pay him?
That's a good question. But I guarantee you, rewatching this, watching it the first time, like thinking back about it, the scene that they have him in, I think it's very clear that they did a little bit of reshoot and some editing in here, because they showed him in his little gardener outfit or whatever, and then cut to, I think they realized that not a lot of people were going to recognize him, like, off the bat, because they had to make it very explicitly obvious multiple other times, like, hey, that was Elton John. Did y'all see that? Oh yeah, that was Elton John. Did y'all know his gardener was Elton John? Like multiple times just to drive it home. So
yeah, but you thought that people would know who Brian Setzer was? The only good cameo in the movie?
I don't know who Brian Setzer is.
Yeah, he's a swing guy. He was in the Stray Cats, and then he did the Brian Setzer Orchestra, very famous in the 90s. They did Jump, Jive, and Wail.
Okay, so he was the one that did the battle with Zeb, and he's doing the fiddle, and that guy's doing the guitar.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Now, for any of y'all that were brave enough to stick around for like the post-credit cameo roles they did there,
yep.
Okay, I got a legitimate laugh out of the Willie Nelson one.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Just to tie this in, this was kind of an adult theme they added in there, but they started talking about the Country Bears getting really into using honey, like after that, and they cut to Willie Nelson giving an interview, and he says, "Oh yeah, I actually ate a jar of honey on the roof of the White House with the Country Bears." I got a legitimate laugh out of that.
Was it the only time you laughed at this movie?
Yes, it was.
I actually laughed one time at this movie as well. I don't know. I didn't want to interrupt you, but...
What was your one time?
My one time was when... Okay, so they are going around trying to pick up all the Country Bears, right? And they stop at this motel, which just happens to be Trixie St. Clair is performing at, which... It is established earlier that Tennessee, whatever his last name was, Tennessee O'Neil, is like heartbroken over Trixie because they were like together and then they broke up. So Trixie just happens to be performing, and the like voices that are like doing the dialogue and the voices that are singing are two obviously very different voices. And Trixie's singing voice is Bonnie Raitt, and Tennessee O'Neil's is Don Henley from the Eagles / Don Henley as Don Henley.
There's a lot of famous people in this for this to be so terrible.
And so Tennessee and Trixie sing this duet, and then it pans to the bar where actual Bonnie Raitt and Don Henley are sitting, and Bonnie Raitt says, "They're good. They were always good." And Don Henley says, "Better than the Eagles."
Wow, that completely went over my head when I watched it.
I literally my notes that I wrote, I said, I actually love this joke, but I think it was probably way over the heads of 99% of the audience.
Wow, Brian, you're in the 99%.
Oh.
Also, just want to point out that since the Country Bears broke up, pretty much all of them have like dead end jobs, except for Tennessee, who became a marriage counselor.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was such an unnecessary
Even
side
though
plot.
It broke up with his soulmate.
Well,
Yeah.
that was like they introduced him. He's wearing like this, I don't know, marriage counselor sweater in his office with this couple, and they're like trying to sort their problems out, and then he just starts sobbing. Oh, Trixie, I miss you. I love you, Trixie. Ah, and then the couple
Please
walked
talk
out.
in that voice for the rest of this episode.
Oh my god, no.
Oh.
Yeah, and then apparently he did a good job or whatever. I
Right.
don't know. I hated this movie so much. Everything didn't make sense. There was times during the action scenes where it stopped being the animatronic bears that they showed, and it was these just stuffed animal bears sitting there, not moving. It was beyond. I'm like, this is a Disney movie. I don't know. I can't even. The production. I mean, look, this movie lost over half the money it put into it, so
Yeah.
not surprised.
So, another thing I wanted to point out is Christopher Walken's character, him being the bad guy, right? So he's like the banker that wants to tear down Country Hall. I feel like they didn't establish what his name was until like halfway through the movie. And I can't even remember it now.
Oh, well, because they had to for the plot twist.
But the name of, okay, so I guess we should just go ahead and talk about that.
Oh, boy, yeah.
So the plot twist, the big plot twist at the end is that the guy who, Christopher Walken's character, whose character's name I can't remember, it's a different name than the one that they established earlier in the film.
Yeah, he's referred, I think his IMDb credit is Reed Thimble, which I believe is the name that he was using
Yes.
throughout most of the movie.
Reed Thimble was him as the bad guy adult. And so basically he has devoted his life to destroying the Country Bears and like tearing down Country Bear Hall because years and years ago he was in a music, quote unquote music competition against the Country Bears, and the Country Bears won, and his musical talent was doing armpit farts. I wish I was making this up.
Oh, man.
And
It's so cringeworthy. Like, just watching him do it though, that was even worse.
oh my
the-
god, it
oh.
was so bad.
Yeah, for the setup to this, I'm going to walk everyone through this so they don't have to watch the movie.
Walking.
There's a standoff, with Christopher Walken's character. He has all the Country Bears cornered at the end, and he reaches into his shirt pocket like he's about to pull out a gun, and then immediately
He already had a gun.
Did he already have the gun?
He was holding them at gunpoint
Oh, that's right.
and like forced them into a cage. So anyway, go ahead, Brian.
But yeah, so he reaches into his shirt like he's about to pull something else out, and then he starts doing the armpit fart song. Like, wow. Dang.
How do they get him to do this movie?
Man, they had some
They had to
dirt
pay
on
him.
him. I'm telling you, they had some dirt on him. They were blackmailing him. There is no way Christopher Walken takes this role just for money. This was bad.
So
I'm sorry. Am I the only person that doesn't like Christopher Walken?
I don't really have an opinion on him.
yeah, I
I
don't
think
either.
he's a terrible actor. He plays the same character in every movie.
Yeah,
has-
his
He
voice-
doesn't use any tone in his voice. He's like, it's the same voice. He talks like this the entire movie, regardless of what the context
There's
is.
not enough commas in what you just said in his.
Oh.
Anyway,
So I want to give a fun fact that I actually knew before I started sitting here browsing IMDb. I can't remember which character she is in this movie, but Terry Hardin, who is a very famous puppeteer and also a Disney Imagineer, was in this movie as one of the Country Bears. But to tie it full circle, she's actually one of the sculptors for the set design of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, and she designed the Dragon's Lair attraction in Disneyland Paris. She also was a puppeteer in Captain EO, so she's got a lot of notable Disney parks credits. She was also on Dinosaur and some Muppet stuff too, but very interesting person. Fun little trivia fact.
It's kind of embarrassing that it was the Jim Henson workshop that worked on
Oh
this
my
movie.
god, I know.
Yeah, that's very embarrassing.
The last point that I wanted to bring up is that I feel like they tried really hard to make this a musical, but unlike a real musical, like a good musical, none of the songs moved the plot forward, and all of them were forgettable, and you could like it was impossible to suspend your disbelief. Like normally, you're watching a musical, everybody starts singing, and you suspend your disbelief at the fact that everyone knows the song and everybody's singing along and can do the choreography. This is not the case. It's like everything felt so out of place, especially the one in the diner.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that scene was so terrible. I just could not even handle it.
Well, it was trying to like recreate the Blues Brothers, where it just jumps into song for no reason. But the thing is, the Blues Brothers was funny and good. This was good things.
Yeah.
Oh man. Also, they said that one of the guys invented stage diving, and I'm like, really? Country music, stage diving? Don't think so. Sorry, move on.
Oh man.
Right.
Oh, and the
I mean, have you been to
cringy.
see George Strait? Kidding, but he could stage dive if he wanted. I would catch him.
You mean you can actually tell him apart from other celebrities?
Excuse me, King George is very identifiable. And my mom, I grew up with my mom having a poster of him in her closet. So yeah.
Wait,
Oh,
do we
okay.
want to touch that one?
Oh man.
So I want to
go ahead.
really quick also touch on this one. I know we've been talking about the Country Bears a lot, but I'm looking at pictures from this movie now, and how 90s is the younger brother's hairstyle. Like,
Oh my god, with the frosted tips.
yes.
Yes. I
He looks
literally
like-
had that thought.
He looks like Reese from Malcolm in the Middle. I thought it was him.
my
at first.
Yeah, he does.
Oh.
Dang. So if you guys are ready to move on, I can tie this up with Roger Ebert's review of this movie.
Please do.
Imagine it's just an amazing review.
So I didn't write the quote down, but basically what it says was the technical effects of the puppets in this movie were good, but don't let them distract of how truly meaningless the plot is. So take that with whatever you want to take it. Watch the movie if you feel like having a bad day.
Yeah.
I just don't know how hard it is to just relate the plot back to the actual attraction. They
Yeah.
could have just used the characters from the attraction, not made up these new Country Bears. I don't get it. Why do that?
Yeah, makes no sense.
I think, in all seriousness, like not even trying to be funny, this may very well be the worst movie I have ever seen before in my life. Like, it is that bad.
You and I need to watch some movies because I have some for you.
Oh. So what's the next movie on our list, Beth?
We will move on to actually a good movie or a good franchise. Maybe I haven't seen all of them, to be completely honest. Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one came out in 2003.
Do we want to talk about the first Pirates movie since that launched the franchise, and that's probably the one that we really started to see stuff from the movie
Yeah.
going to the parks?
I
Yeah,
think it
that's what
has
I
the most
figured.
tie-ins.
Yeah. So that one I've actually seen pretty recently.
Mhm.
So who wants to give the plot summary?
How do you describe it?
I feel like almost everyone has seen this, though. Like the other
Yeah.
ones are so obscure, but for those that haven't,
Well,
Johnny
you-
Depp plays a drunk guy.
You get that
There
is
you go.
actually there it is. That's the best summary.
What does happen in the first one?
So
Elizabeth
this,
Swann is supposed to be married to Norrington. She doesn't want to be. She runs away. And then there's a whole thing with Jack Sparrow, I guess.
This one's more the curse than anything.
yeah,
It's about how they have that curse that they have to have like a blood sacrifice to get rid of, and
Are they all ghosts at this point already?
yes,
and this is the one where she finds out that Will Turner's a pirate, and She,
Because they have to return that one coin that they found on him when
Mhm.
he was a little boy.
yeah. Well, that was actually a really good summary there, guys. We worked together to piece that one up.
It's been a hot minute since I've seen any of these films.
See, I went back and actually rewatched it right before this just to kind of have it fresh in my mind and everything. And I'm going to say, I know Johnny Depp has kind of gotten some flack, just kind of the way the character has evolved and kind of come like more and more of a character of itself as the plot progressed through all the movies. But I think the first one, he did a pretty good job. And I think the first one just in total, like extremely good casting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, Jeffrey Rush as Barbosa was like
Mhm.
one of the best castings I've seen in like a big franchise movie series like this.
I think the benefit that this movie had over pretty much everything else is it was set up to actually succeed. Like the plot of the movie was really good and wasn't too convoluted.
Stupid.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a good way to put it. It had a really good cast that fit the roles that were placed in front of them, and the movie itself is very memorable.
Well, and
Which-
Johnny Depp in this one, it's like he's so clever, and it's like he's this drunk guy, but then you realize that these, you know, quote unquote stupid things he was doing, he like really has a plan behind it, and you're like, oh my god. And like you see what he does, like whenever he first gets to the town and he talks that guy out of making him pay, and then he steals the money, and it's like he sounds like an idiot, but it was all planned. And like as the character has evolved, he's just like a really stupid drunk guy now. And I think it's really
Yeah.
sad, honestly.
Mm.
Was it in our group chat or did I hear this on a podcast that apparently the last movie, it's like in comparison to what you just said, where he's cleverly doing things that make him seem stupid, he just has stupid luck instead.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the last ones too, so I have no idea how true that is.
It's really disappointing. Like I actually just rewatched it not too long ago, and like even just the beginning of the most recent one, it's like he had this quote unquote plan and it doesn't even work out, and he's like asleep and wakes up at the end because he was like drunk, and it's like, really, this is not like the Jack Sparrow that people fell in love with.
Mm.
Well, I feel like a lot of these movies that have these long-running franchises kind of run to the same issue. Is that like there's this side character that the fans kind of like, and then they try to push to make him the main character. Because in the first one, Johnny Depp was not the main character in this movie. Like Orlando Bloom had the lead role. And then as more people kind of gotten to like the Jack Sparrow character that Johnny Depp had created, they start shoving him more and more and more into, you know, the main character role of the movie. And it kind of gets annoying. You know, you have the side character that has these like quirky things about him that makes him good as a side character. Doesn't really make for a good main character in a movie.
It's the Urkel effect. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what it was. The show was supposed to be about the family, and in season 2, they're like, nope, Urkel or die, and that's it.
Mhm.
So I guess the same thing. Although I didn't think Jack Sparrow had a small role at all in the first.
No, it was definitely a large role, but I wouldn't say he was the main character. He was not what was driving the plot, really. So
yeah, I guess once we hit the sequel, the second one, it became about Jack Sparrow.
exactly.
I'm one of the people who love both sequels, and I say both sequels not expecting On Stranger Tides to even exist because that movie was just god awful.
Oh my god, I will rewatch that movie all day, every day.
Kidding me? With the mermaids. Ooh.
That's why she rewatches it.
Yeah, I
Well,
love them.
those mermaids used to be in the ride.
Oh gosh,
No,
I
Yeah.
talked about that.
So happy. That was like the best. I actually, that's when I worked there, and I was so excited when they added all that stuff. It was
Nice.
amazing.
Did you see the mermaid in the water, Kirsten? Because that's an effect I've read about so many times, but
Yeah.
I can't find anything. How cool was that? Because that just sounds really cool.
I mean, it was like it wasn't as cool as, I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Man,
It wasn't that cool. I was just glad. I love the song that they sing, and like I love it. I love like the girl who ends up like the main mermaid or whatever who's in the movie. Like, yeah, I love it.
Mermaids.
So has anyone here, other than me, seen the most recent one?
Me?
I
I
have
saw.
not.
Okay.
I thought it was good. I actually liked it. Jack Sparrow, as everyone else said, was just a caricature, excuse me, of his old self. But I thought the movie was well plotted, and I liked Salazar. I thought he was a good bad guy.
And you know, they definitely tried to tie it in more with the earlier plot lines too, which was nice to see kind of a return to form in that way.
Oh, you mean recreating the first scene of the movie, like for at least the first 20 minutes of the movie?
Exactly. But I think it was a definite improvement.
To tell you how far I've gotten with that movie, I got it with one of my last Disney Movie Club movies. It literally sat on my shelf until I realized that I could get movie club points for redeeming the little cards on the inside, which I could turn into gift cards to use towards my Disney trip. That was the only time I opened it.
Oh man,
Mario, this is shameful.
I'll watch it eventually. Maybe I'll watch it tomorrow.
it's a little late for that, buddy.
That's okay. I'll tell you guys how much I either enjoyed it or hated it.
There you go.
I feel like I've missed a Pirates of the Caribbean movie too, somewhere along the lines, but I feel like I still remember all of them, if that makes any sense.
I don't think the third one was great, honestly. It was weird to me. I didn't like the third one.
Yeah, that's a big thing, is that Dead Man's Chest and At World's End, they were filmed at the same time. And people didn't like it because it was quote unquote too confusing or convoluted. I just think it was a lot different from the first one. A lot of stuff was going on, and if you have to like that type of movie to be into it, and if you don't, they're gonna lose you. I happen to like a good plot with a million things happening, so I was on board personally. But I could see why people were, I guess, confused, because the first one was one straightforward plot with a couple B things here and there, and this one was just there's so much going on. So I get it.
Just to review, like, what were the sequels about in like a couple sentences?
Oh boy, a couple sentences.
If that's
a tall task right there.
As short as possible, short and sweet.
Isn't the one just mermaids? We already covered that.
Yeah, that one's mermaids. That's it. Dead Man's Chest and At World's End were both kind of one long story about, I guess, they're trying to find Davy Jones' heart from his.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And Bootstrap Bill, Will Turner's dad.
All these pirates are related. Like so many, like amazing, like surprise dad, surprise kid, like.
Well, it's like Star Wars.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Everyone's related.
So are all the same people? Which I know there were some that they didn't have like certain characters, right?
Bloom and Knightley dropped out after the third. So
and they never came back.
Orlando Bloom came back to make kind of a cameo in Dead Men Tell No Tales, but it was a very, very small part.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, on Stranger Tides, they changed the entire cast around pretty much and added Penelope Cruz.
Who was amazing.
What's that?
I said who was amazing.
Right. Not in that movie personally, in my opinion, but and then I guess people complained about the fact that all the people they loved weren't in that one, so they brought some people back in Dead Men Tell No Tales, but it was there was still enough like new characters.
So someone on here, actually, I think Brian. I always forget we color code these things.
There's
you had a couple
at the top.
Yeah. Someone who's really good about making these docs. Brian's got a couple attraction tie-ins in here. I don't know if you want to go over them.
Yeah, these were, and I mainly did this is to kind of compare and contrast this with our next film. I think Pirates did a really good job of being like its own movie and just, I'm going to throw a really stupid pun in here, but kind of like throwing the Disney fans a bone with like some of the like references that they put in there. So the couple ones that I noticed going through, the movie starts off with Elizabeth Swann singing Yo-Ho, A Pirate's Life for Me. So there's one very, very obvious in your face one. They have the scene where the town is on fire and all the prisoners are trying to lure the dog over with who has the keys with the bone to unlock the door. Pretty famous scene from the end of the ride. A really subtle one, and I had to go back and watch this. There's a scene when they are going in on rowboats into the cave where the cursed treasure is held, and it's literally on screen for like a second, but the camera pans over and there's a skeleton on the ground, and there's like the crab standing next to him, like snapping his claws, and it's from like the very first scene. Yeah, when you come in on the boat. And it was weird, like it just like kind of clicked in my head real quick that I was like, oh, that's from the movie. I was like, I don't think a lot of people would catch that. As a really, really subtle one. And then just the whole town of Tortuga in the movie is basically modeled after the town that you move through Pirates in the attraction.
Yeah, we got the redhead before she, turned into the new redhead.
Right.
Cool.
I mean, there were a lot in the sequels that had a lot of the Disneyland ride. I haven't been there in forever, but I know like the whole Tia Dalma and what's it called? That the Bayou, that whole area is like that scene in the Disneyland ride, which I haven't seen in again years.
I do think I may have said this before, but I do think another thing that this movie benefited from was very strong characters. Like even Captain Jack, who's supposed to be more of a background character, is a very strong character.
Well,
I mean,
even
I
like
think
the
Norrington
sidekicks, like the pirate sidekicks, the two guys that are always
Yeah.
together, the bald guy and then the one with one eye, like those are memorable.
Yeah.
Don't forget about the monkey.
Oh gosh, I did actually forget about the monkey. So we ready to move on to the next one? Because I'm really excited about this one.
Oh gosh.
I can't believe these two movies were made in the same year.
Right?
So, plot summary for this one. Who's got this?
Not me.
mean,
That
I
looks like it. You typed it in
Yeah.
the show.
I put the plot summary in there because there was just so much that I felt like needed to be mentioned, but I'll try to make it as quick as possible. So basically, there is a wealthy mansion owner, Edward Gracie, and he's led to believe that the woman he loves, who is a multiracial woman named Elizabeth Henshaw, has committed suicide. So he hangs himself in remorse. And then later, many, many years later, he hires, I guess because he's a ghost now, he hires realtors, Eddie Murphy's character, and his wife is also a realtor, to come and sell the mansion. So they and their two kids take a trip over there, and as every movie ever does, a torrential downpour happens, so they're stuck there for the night. And the kids meet the staff members there and get stuck in a secret the Jim Evers is Eddie Murphy's character. Jim gets stuck into a secret passageway where he meets Madame Leota and runs away because she's a floating head in a crystal ball. And why wouldn't you run away? And then he bumps into the kids, and they have discovered that all of the residents in the mansion are ghosts, and all of the ghosts are stuck there until Edward Gracie and Elizabeth Henshaw are reunited. So they can't move on to the afterlife. So Gracie, during all of this with the kids and Jim Evers, Edward Gracie is trying to woo Jim Evers' wife, Sarah, the other realtor, and asks her if she recognizes him. And she's like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And they discover that she looks like Elizabeth Henshaw. Well, supposedly a striking resemblance is the same actress. It looks exactly the same. They're identical. And they find out that Elizabeth was murdered by Gracie's racist butler, Ramsley, because he didn't want him mixing with multiracial people.
Because when you think Haunted Mansion, you think about racial tension.
Right, exactly. So Ramsley figures out that they have discovered his secret, so he locks the kids in a trunk and kicks Jim Evers out and puts a spell on the house to trap him outside. And basically tells Sarah, hey, like, I'm going to kill your kids if you don't marry Edward Gracie, because You guys need to be reunited so that we can all move on to the afterlife. So Madame Leota talks Jim into driving his car into the house so that he can get in, because apparently the spell doesn't work on cars. And he rescues Sarah and the kids and tells Gracie the truth about how Ramsley murdered Elizabeth. So then Ramsley summons some wraiths to try and kill everyone, but then a dragon comes to take him to hell. And Ramsley tries to drag Jim with him, but Gracie saves him, and Ramsley ends up going to hell. So then Sarah collapses. Sorry, you want to say something?
No, go ahead. I thought you were done the plot summary because this just felt very long.
It keeps going.
I know. I feel like none of this could be left out.
I
So
think it have all been left out.
well, yeah, but so anyway, Sarah, the wife, collapses, and it's revealed that she was poisoned by Ramsley before he got dragged away by the dragon. So then this floating orb appears and possesses her, and that revives her somehow. And the orb, it turns out, is Elizabeth Henshaw's ghost. And she reunites with Gracie, and all the ghosts get to move on into the afterlife. And then the Evers family decides it's time to go on vacation, and they bring Madame Leota and the 4 singing busts on their vacation. The end.
So,
What in
but-
God?
Yeah.
before we start the discussion on this one, I want to go over some of the taglines for this movie.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm not going to read all of them because some of them are really, all of them are really stupid,
How
but
many taglines could there be?
10 on IMDb. There are 10. I'll go over all of them. The first one is The Reluctant Ghost. The next one is Get Out with an exclamation point. And this is where they start to get good. Your future would be in good hands, ... if she had any. They'll be happy to serve you.
Whoa,
Dot,
what is
dot,
that in
dot, on
reference
plate.
to?
They get worse.
Was there a ghost that didn't have hands? Did I miss that part?
I guess Madame Leota?
Oh, okay.
Next one says, check your pulse at the door, ... if you have one. They keep using this whole like ...
Oh,
If you
man.
have one.
The next one is just open house.
Some of these are not taglines, they're just words.
This next one is really bad. Well, the one after it's really bad. It says it has a living room ... and a dying room.
Oh no.
Oh my god.
I kind of like that one, actually.
The next couple, the next 2 are my favorites. 2 bathrooms, his and hers.
Ugh.
Oh boy.
This next one, which I'm gonna leave this be the last one because the other one, the final one that I was gonna skip is with so many ghosts, you'll never be alone in the dark.
That's so dumb. They have so many good taglines they could have just taken literally from the ride.
Yeah. And then this-
999 ghosts, but there's room for one more. Like, hello.
That's all they had to say, and that could be it.
Yeah.
Or we've been dying to have you.
Yes,
good one.
literally.
This last one is my favorite, and it says comes with a fixed mortgage.
Like
More.
morgue.
Yes.
Oh boy.
I was about to say, and the pun is.
The best
Man.
part of this is that Brian and I love a good pun, but none of those were good.
No.
I
No.
also want to go back a moment because I pulled up the Country Bear taglines, and there's
Oh,
one.
yes.
There is one, and it says they're legends. Period. Barely, and it's spelled like
Yeah.
bear.
Oh, that is
Okay,
garbage.
I'm getting off. I'm going to sleep, guys. I'm done with this.
Anyway, that was all I had to contribute to this because this is bad. This is very bad.
Yeah. No,
I've never
just,
seen this movie either. Like, and I'm glad now.
yeah. And this one I feel like hurt the most because I feel like they could have made something really good from Haunted Mansion because it's an incredible ride.
I just don't know why they would go the direction of like biracial, like racism. Like, what? Where? Why did?
I don't understand why
Yeah.
they went the direction of Eddie Murphy.
Oh man.
I don't understand why they went in the direction of having a family show up. That's a whole other
Yeah.
thing. It should have been 1 or 2 people, and it would have
Yeah.
been a lot better. They could have like played with that a little bit more. But then having the kids in the mix, it makes them have to do something, and that
Yeah.
And
was
that's-
just a long scene. The whole thing with the spiders, forget it.
That's the whole thing that I was saying before. Like Pirates of the Caribbean is such a straightforward plot with such memorable characters, and this plot is just so heavy with so many different things going on that honestly, where is the main plot of this movie?
Well, see, this is what I think the issue was, is that if you look at the attractions, Pirates of the Caribbean, you're kind of just put in the middle of a scene. You're not really necessarily following a plot line.
Yeah.
Haunted Mansion has more of kind of a somewhat linear plot, and I think the issue is with Pirates, they kind of just had free reign to do whatever they want. All you gotta do is throw pirates in it, throw a couple of nods to the attraction, you're good to go. Haunted Mansion, they kept having this secondary plot that had nothing to do with the plot of the ride, and they kept trying to like tie in stuff like the actual plot from the ride into it, and it just like it made it this convoluted mess.
Well, if I can just say one quick thing. First of all, there are these books by Jason Sorrell called Pirates of the Caribbean and Haunted Mansion, respectively, from the Magic Kingdom to the movies. Mm-hmm. And in the Haunted Mansion book, it says that Haunted Mansion, I mean, and this is kind of like this weird thing where Haunted Mansion did not have a plot at first. It was the cast members who came up with the plot. And because of that, it became kind of like a legend, and then it became reality where they put the cast member plot into a movie, and then they took the movie and the cast member plot and put it back into the attraction, which I think is kind of cool if you take the movie out of it, because it's like art imitates life, imitates art, imitates life, imitates art, and back and forth. It's interesting.
That is very interesting.
I killed that.
No, I'm confused as to how the movie went back into the attraction.
Well, basically, there was no plot. It was not meant to have a plot. It was supposed to just be a bunch of different random scenes. The movie took kind of what the cast members made up as a plot with the guy who killed himself because of the wife and the.
Well, that started out as the plot. Whenever I worked there, I went on a backstage tour. And we were told that it started out having this kind of semi-plot, but they decided it was too dark. So they did away with the plot. And so now it's like a combination of what the original plot was going to be, but some things that like cast members have made up over time, plus whatever like rumors come from guests, etc. So like there was kind of supposed to be a plot, but then by the time they like actually finished everything, they decided to take it out, which is why it doesn't all really make sense in the end.
Right. But then they bring back, some of the certain things like with the bride and, the new bride and everything. And there's a lot of, it just goes back and forth in terms of what was in the ride, what was supposed to be in the ride to what is now. So it's just like an amalgam of a lot of stuff that happens.
Yeah, except the bride is like the most Aryan looking woman ever in the ride.
Yeah,
there's no racial tension there.
I didn't mean the racist plot.
I mean, I feel like they could have done so much though with like a Black Widow kind of thing. Like that would have like not black, but like Black Widow.
See, now it's getting uncomfortable.
There we go.
Maybe that's where it came from. Maybe they were trying. They thought about. I don't know. Maybe
I thought about it too, literally.
Yeah, but that would have been. I feel like they could have done something so good with that. I mean, it's like that's interesting. It could be. I feel like it could be a good thing where they kind of make it acceptable for kids, but then there's the jokes that go like over the kids' heads for the parents. Like I don't know. I think they could have done something good with it.
Yeah.
Oh, they definitely could have. They just didn't.
They should try again.
They just didn't.
Well, I know we're gonna get to this a little bit later, but the rumor keeps coming up that Guillermo del Toro is working on a Haunted Mansion reboot. I'm excited just because his name's attached to it. I'm really, really hoping he draws some inspiration from the comics and ties that into it, because I love the plot line of the Haunted Mansion comics.
That's one way they could have made a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have very high hopes for that one. I hope that it doesn't let us down.
As long as he, follows through. He's kind of known for picking up movies and then throwing them away. Never had doing them, so
right.
That won't happen this time.
I also, before we jump off of this one, because I know we sat on this for a while too. There's this weird thing with the Haunted Mansion that around the time that the movie came out, a video game also came out, but the video game itself was actually themed to the attraction and some of the earlier like plot lines of the attraction that we kind of talked about in the Haunted Mansion episodes. which is weird because it was used to pitch the movie.
Boy, that makes for a confusing mess.
Yeah. I'm not going to talk about that one, but just a fun little aside there.
What
That was
console
the
was
GameCube
that?
game, right? I think it's GameCube and PS2.
Yeah, it was like all the platforms of that generation, PlayStation 2, Xbox, GameCube.
Huh.
Very, very weird.
Yeah, that is strange.
I have like very vague memories of that game. That was the only reason I remembered it.
I'm gonna have to watch some videos later.
Do we want to tackle our next one that I know is a favorite of Beth's?
Oh my god, I love this movie.
And me.
Oh, yeah.
Yay! I'm
I
not
like
alone.
this movie too. I was pleasantly surprised by this one.
We're talking about Tomorrowland. I love that
Yes.
movie too. So we're all in agreement so far.
Awesome. Like,
I haven't seen it, but I'm sure I'll love it when I do. Can I join the club?
It's a
yeah,
very,
totally.
it's a very interesting movie that like I'm sure the concept alone is going to sound very convoluted, but actually sitting down and watching it, like I very much enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, I am really like sad that this movie bombed as hard as it did because I feel like they could have taken this into the parks and made something super awesome, but because it bombed so hard, they're like, nah, let's pretend it didn't happen.
Which
anyway.
one was in this? Which guy?
George Clooney.
Which one was in this one?
I
Kirsten,
thought this
no,
was
he's
Russell
one of-
Crowe. This wasn't Russell Crowe?
No, so Jerry, the story is that Kirsten thinks that George Clooney, Russell Crowe, Mel Gibson,
Dennis
And-
The other one?
Dennis Quaid are quadruplets. Even though they
Alright.
don't look anything alike.
and Kevin Costner and Kevin Spacey and Barry
What?
Manilow and Rod.
Okay.
Barry Manilow and Rod Stewart, I can see, but that's it.
Rod has the big mole. That's the only way I can tell them apart.
It's like a Chip and Dale situation.
There you go.
Who wears the red shirt or has the red nose?
Chocolate chip. Brown nose is chip.
That's
So-
how I remember too, yeah.
So plot summary of this movie, Beth. I'll give this one to you because this is like one of your favorites.
Yeah, I love this movie. So basically the plot is that there is a young boy named Frank Walker who is really like he's an inventor. He's like trying to make a jetpack and his dad is being real rude about it, like, nah, you're dumb, like whatever. And anyway, that's a really great start to this description. But so he takes his jetpack and goes to this like inventors like the World's Fair, actually.
I was gonna say,
And-
how did you not?
Yeah.
How are you leaving that important plot point out?
Goes
Kind of
to
has
the,
something to do with Disney here.
right. So he goes to the 1964 World's Fair and is rejected, but then meets this this young girl named Athena, and she has like faith in him somehow. She just has like a feeling, I guess, and gives him this little pin with a T on it, which I'm sure everybody has seen. And they go on to It's a Small World, and some little laser comes out, sees the pin, and like gives him a different route, which takes him to this transportation device, whatever it is, that takes him to Tomorrowland, which is the super futuristic, awesome place where everything is like innovative. And he
AKA what they should have rethemed Tomorrowland to.
right, exactly. So I'm trying to figure out if I should go to the present or the, I don't know.
It would just be like years later, a mischievous, very smart, mischievous girl gets a hold of that pin, and I guess I don't know. I would say
Yeah.
like fantasy ensues because it's such like a specific plot that it would take a long time.
A lot, yeah.
Unless you
Yeah, so
There's a lot of time jumps and things, and
yeah, so anyway, it's a really great film. It's very much so like a hopeful about the future, like we can save the world kind of film.
Yeah.
Which I love.
And it bombed, and that is just like so.
So sad.
It's like, I don't know what the word is, not ironic, but it's just like so exactly what you would expect to happen in today's world, and very sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the note that I put in is that just to tell everybody how hard it bombed, is the Hollywood Reporter estimated that the financial losses of this film were between 120 and 140 million dollars.
Ooh.
So
A lot.
And it's weird because it was directed by Brad Bird. It was produced by Damon Lindelof. It had a great team behind it. It just, I don't know. People just didn't get it, I think that was the biggest thing. We actually, I also did an episode on that one called Tomorrowland is a Great Movie and You Have No Taste, where we talked about, we just listened to people who were ragging on Tomorrowland and told them how they were wrong.
I also know that Beth has brought this up a couple times, but I think they just did a horrible job at marketing this film.
yeah, I think that was a big thing in its failure, was that, like, even me being like a huge Disney fan, the first that I had really heard of this movie was at New York Comic Con, like the year before it came out. They had a Big Hero 6 and Tomorrowland panel. Like,
you were there?
Yeah.
I was there too.
Oh my god, cool.
Yeah, we got the little pins in the bag.
Oh my god, I was so stoked on it, even though I didn't know anything about the movie yet. But yeah, so I was like, the reason I went to the panel was because I was a huge Disney nerd, and like I had heard the movie, like that it was coming out, but I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know any concept of it. And then they played a clip from it, which was like intriguing, but still didn't really tell anything about the plot. And then that's the last I heard of it. Like, I didn't see it marketed anywhere. I didn't see previews for it or any advertising at all.
I think the biggest problem is they were trying to keep everything a mystery. Even in that panel, they were like, oh, you can't say this, you can't say that. They weren't letting the actors say anything. So it was kind of weird. But like, in terms of marketing, I think they were going for what they were doing with Lost, you know, since Damon Lindelof is attached to it, where it was like, here are all these mysteries. But they stopped doing that. So we
started on Lost.
You might have an argument with me, my friend. But
oh, I love Lost. That's why I'm like, don't get me started on it.
Oh, then we're friends. But I think they were going for this whole like, oh, we're gonna do this online mystery. There's a box, and inside the box there's these, and then they just kind of stopped doing that and just didn't advertise anymore. So I was like, all right, well, there's that movie. But I mean, when you go to see it, it's, you know, it's got so many great messages in it, and it's got some good action, a lot of good comedy. I mean,
yeah, and like, again, like, I didn't even see this movie until after it was out of theaters. Like, I didn't even see it in theaters because I was like, honestly forgot that it came out. But when I did see it, I was just like, oh my god, this movie's amazing. Like, why didn't I see it in theaters? Why aren't people talking about this?
I went to see it with my best friend who's not like a Disney person, and I feel like that's a big part of it. Like, this movie is the perfect movie for hardcore Disney fans, but for non-Disney people, they're just like, what? Like, they don't care about the World's Fair. Like, they don't understand, you know, what Epcot was supposed to be. And, you know, I think that's a big part of it, is like the audience isn't big enough, or wasn't big enough.
But I mean, even like, if you're not a Disney fan, I feel like you could still relate to this. Like, hey, the whole world, like, everything's going really, really bad, and if we don't change, then it's going to be like irreparable, which is literally exactly what's happening to the world right now. And like, it gives this like hopeful message at the end, like, no, we can change it. Like, even one person can like make a difference. I feel like everyone can relate to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're pushing it close on time here. Let's quickly go over some of the upcoming films that we got coming up for these attractions, and maybe a couple words on if we're excited about them, how we feel about them. Just kind of run through this.
All right, so Jungle Cruise.
Yeah, not sure how I feel about that.
Yeah, I'm very mixed feelings on this.
There's not a lot that I like that Dwayne Johnson does, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he's like super goofy, and so is Paul Giamatti. Like,
Paul Giamatti can be really good when he's put in the right movie.
Yeah,
but he's not usually.
Like, and Emily Blunt too. She's like so good, but then she can also just be like
Right.
goofy. I don't know. And I feel like Jungle Cruise is like a goofy ride, you know? I don't know. I'm kind of excited.
Which is, I mean, like, it's interesting to look at it from that perspective because it's like, okay, yeah, the goofy characters fit a goofy movie, but will it end up falling in the same way that like Haunted Mansion did?
I hope not.
That's the thing that
Yeah.
I'm scared of.
I'm just
I
hoping
see
that
it as like Clue. That's kind of what I want it to be
Right.
like.
That's
Clue.
interesting.
and I'm hoping there's going to be tons of references because there's not enough in some of these. And you know what? The people who don't get the references, it's not going to hurt anything.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
as long as they do the jokes well, where everyone will explain it. I mean, the Skipper Dan song by Weird Al was popular for people who weren't Disney people. So I think that Jungle Cruise really stretches out beyond, you know.
It's like dad jokes.
Yeah.
I love dad jokes. Apparently, I'm alone in that.
No, you
No.
are not. You are certainly not. You are very much among friends here. The next one we got is the one that Brian mentioned, Guillermo del Toro's. Yeah,
Guillermo del Toro.
Thank you. I can never pronounce his name right.
I always just try to say it really fast.
I hope that no one.
Just
Okay,
think about
yeah.
think about quesadilla. How the L's.
It's
There you go.
the RM combo that gets me.
That's
That's where I
exactly-
stop at. I can
Oh,
get the Guillermo part. That's easy. That's the Guillermo.
Put Guillermo and Mo together. Boop.
Man.
so the Haunted Mansion movie,
Anyway.
which has been a concept since 2010. Wow, did not
Yeah.
know that one.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's been known that he just lets things go, and I have a feeling that's going to happen again. I hope not, but
The thing that I'm afraid of with this one, I keep saying I'm afraid of a lot of things. Wow, that's sad. The thing that I'm afraid of with this one is we already got a Haunted Mansion movie. Like, are they going to ruin it even further? I hope
They
not.
they
They
can't.
can't.
That's not possible.
Oh, don't put it out there because they will.
Not here. I'm gonna say it's not possible if Guillermo del Toro. God, you guys made me even mess up. If he's the one that does it, I don't think that they can mess it up any further. Now, if they try to put somebody else there, maybe.
I don't know. I didn't think Tim Burton could mess up Alice in Wonderland, but
Oh.
Mm.
Yeah, I think he's lost his touch a little bit.
Yeah.
I like Big Eyes. That was a good movie. Anyway,
Also untitled Pirates of the Caribbean 6. I'm gonna title this one Pirates of the Caribbean. Please let it die. Pretty please
Yeah.
let it die.
The last movie wasn't fantastic, but it kind of did a good job of just wrapping everything up.
Mhm.
And this is gonna feel so much like a tacked on sequel if they do this. I don't see how they could make this really fit in with anything else.
I thought they were rebooting it. I thought that's what they were saying, and that's why Johnny Depp's not going to be in it because it's a completely different story.
Oh man, I didn't.
Hmm.
Oh, Johnny Depp's not in it?
Yeah, they made a whole big deal about it. Like I think it was like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And
I
And
heard
they're like, they removed him. No, they didn't. His character's not in it.
I've heard this running theory on the internet that apparently they're going to try to focus on Red in this movie. Like they're going to make her a character and then like actually try to sell the character, which
So is it supposed to be in the
No one
same
asked for that.
universe?
Thank you.
I think it's supposed to be in the same universe, but it's just like a different set of pirates. From what I've
Okay.
heard now, obviously that's all internet hearsay. That could be totally wrong, totally out the window, and could have nothing to do with it. But
They're trying to bank on that SJW train.
that's what I heard. We also got
Wait, Red like the redhead?
Yeah.
that's what they
Yeah.
call her now.
What? Ugh.
I don't mind them doing these like side stories. It's like having an expanded universe, but the direction that they're going, if what you're saying is true,
I was gonna say I think it can go either way, but that makes me feel like why?
Wow.
Yeah.
Because they just changed her character and no one was happy about it, so they're trying to make everyone happy.
no, look, she's really cool. I promise. Look at this movie we did. She's got an Irish accent. Everything's good.
Oh god. We also have a Magic Kingdom movie directed by Jon Favreau. This
So these like I was the one that put these in here. The only like the next few that I guess are on the list, I literally only was able to find out about because I had a 30-day free trial to IMDb Pro. And
some of these are actually on like regular IMDb too.
okay, like I couldn't find any more details than what I put here. And
This
some
is
of
it.
these I didn't even know that these were things that were happening. But
Yeah,
anyway.
this is totally it for most of these because I was looking. There's a tag on IMDb called "movies based on attractions," which is very specific.
Yeah, I wish I had found that.
I only found it because it was like one of the 2 tags on Country Bears.
Bless.
Was the other one worst movies ever?
No, it was actually movies about bears.
Oh, okay.
I guess I-
They had the Revenant and Country Bears.
So quick breeze through of these. We got another Tower of Terror movie. It's a Small World, and The Hill, which is basically a Matterhorn movie.
Why did they not call this the Matterhorn?
Yeah, that was weird because even what you put in here where it says a group of adventurers climbing the Matterhorn encounter real life Yetis, that wasn't in the description on plain IMDb. It just said The Hill, a group of adventurers climb a mountain. And that was literally all that was there.
Wow, informative.
It was tagged movies based on theme park attractions. So I guess they're trying to tie it back to the mountains somehow, but still like very left field.
Can I just say It's a Small World is the worst possible idea for a movie?
How
Yeah, like, what are they
just
even
make
gonna
a plot?
do?
They might as well do Hungry Hungry Hippos the movie. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
I
don't-
I mean, to me, it makes like as much sense as a live action Jungle Book or Dumbo.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm hoping they turn this into a horror movie where all the dolls come to life.
I was gonna.
Oh,
They
that
did
would be
It's called
awesome,
Escape from
actually.
Tomorrow.
I can't watch it.
I'm gonna throw this out there, and I don't remember who is going to be on this train with me, but I would be happy if this was like, you know how sometimes they title projects with like things to mislead people, which obviously It's a Small World is very direct, but I would be very happy if this was like one of those hidden titles for a Kingdom Keepers movie. That would be interesting. And the only reason I'm saying that is because the only part of that book that I remember is when the dolls come to life on It's a Small World.
You know what they need to do next?
What's that?
What movie? Another Tinkerbell movie.
Oh no.
Oh,
Okay, and that's where we're gonna end this week's podcast. But
Also,
Randy,
before I was just gonna say before we wrap it up, my boyfriend and I were talking after watching Country Bears, and
no.
apparently there is a thing that studios will do where they like make a movie with the intention of it bombing, so that they can like use it as a tax write-off. Do you guys know about this?
Well, that's like Uwe Boll in German. It's like a German thing. Like he made all these terrible video game movies purposefully because they could write it off, and it was intentionally bad, and they would make tons of money off of it. But he's also insane. So.
Well, I guess the thing I was going to ask you guys is, do you think that any of these movies is a possibility that was the concept, or did they just
That
try
would
and they failed
explain
real
a
hard?
lot.
I feel like the Country Bears could maybe.
I don't think so, just because of how many people are attached.
That's
to
the
that
thing.
movie.
If you take the
Yeah.
cameo appearances out of that movie, I would 100% agree with that.
But the cameos would like made it more expensive, which would mean a bigger tax write-off, right?
But the cameos also mean that they spent more money on
I
it.
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Or they, like you said, they have some kind of dirt on someone, and it's
Mm-hmm.
so my question to you guys is, are there any of these movies on this upcoming list that actually sound appealing to you, or like they could potentially be something cool?
Jungle Cruise.
Yeah, Haunted Mansion. If
Yeah.
it's Guillermo del Toro.
If it's like a horror version of Haunted Mansion, like where it's not like, you know, I don't think they're gonna do an R-rated, but like a PG-13 horror, I would be, I think, possibly on board with it.
Do you think
Yeah.
they would push it to a PG-13 horror? Because that could be interesting.
I
They
think
could. I
they,
mean, Pirates is PG-13.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Huh.
I mean, a small child gets hung in the first 2 minutes of the third movie, so
That's right. Jeez,
I
I
mean,
forgot all
that's-
about that part.
Oh wow.
That
I'd be
must have been one I didn't see.
I mean, I'd be interested in what this Magic Kingdom is. I mean, I think I've created this exact storyline in a run through of a Call of Cthulhu or like Dungeons and Dragons before.
Oh,
Hmm.
speaking right to me there. on that one. So before we tie this up, one, thank you, Jerry, for coming on this week and chatting movies with us. This has been an absolute blast. Tell our listeners where they can find you if they want to hear more about you.
Yeah, well, just everything that I do is 18 plus. So, unless I'm a guest, when I'm a guest, I can be super family friendly. But for my normal projects, you can find me at mouserants.gq. That's the website for my other show. My other show is a Story of Corey, storyofcorey.gq. And that's a Boy Meets World related show where me and my friend Jillian
subscribing right now.
Yeah, I was about to say I didn't know this.
Yeah, we're on season 2 right now, and we're just going through all the episodes in production order, and it's
if you ever need a host on that one to talk about the inconsistencies of Boy Meets World, I will happily come on.
Yeah.
As I said, we're going in production order, so there's not as many as you think.
It's bad. I've gone through and watched it straight through.
Well, I second that. Boy Meets World is legit my favorite TV show of all time. So
awesome. So yeah, everybody come hang out at the Story Corey. And of course, Mouse Rants is my flagship show, and that's me and Simone DeMilo talking about fun stuff with Disney. Kind of come up with original ideas of different topics. Get a little rude here and there, but it's all right.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And speaking of Mouse Rants, we have a musical coming up. It's actually a 3-part musical, so the next 3 episodes on November 20th, 27th, and December 4th. It's got so many podcasters in it, people you may or may not know from different shows, people from off Broadway, and it's a Quentin Tarantino / Disney crossover.
Nice.
It's a wild ride. The trailer's actually up. If you go to the Mouse Rants YouTube, just type in Mouse Rants, you'll find it.
Nice.
Sounds awesome.
Sounds
Again,
very
18
exciting.
plus. Yeah.
Now, question you said it's a musical episode. Is it like, are you reviewing musicals? Are you, is it actually like a musical?
So back in episode 34, I did a musical called the Mouse Rants Frozen Extravaganza, which was a story of a girl who worked at Walt Disney World and Epcot Center, and just when Frozen was taking over at that point, when Maelstrom was being taken away, etc.
So you wrote like original songs and stuff.
No, it's all parody songs. I'm not. I mean, I can write original songs, but it takes a lot of work. So they're all parody songs. That one had like 20 tracks. This one is 40 tracks over 3 different episodes, and just a lot of actors, and it's really. It's a lot of fun. It's very, very violent. It's an homage. It's really it takes place entirely in Epcot Center, and it's about kind of what's going on right now, or how me and Simone feel Epcot's being treated at the moment.
Nice. Sounds good. I'm gonna check it out for sure.
Yeah, same. So I'm gonna stop broadcasting everything, unless you guys have anything you want to tie it up with this week.
No, that's good.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Very awesome.